The Krown, drifting Lambos through your town. Hodlers better buckle down, 'cause it's the final countdown.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Keto Cave. Wish you a very happy and healthy start to your Thursday morning over here from a very cold and perhaps even snowy Helsinki, Finland today. Camera number 2 going all the wells over there, but I would like to go back to camera number 1 as it just feels more natural. Anyways, with all of that said, I will very unlikely be on Twitch today. I am feeling a lot better. I was actually like legitimately concerned the other day that I was getting pretty sick, but I do want to take things a little bit on the easier side right now, just more or less when price action is kind of ranging in this region. And with that said, I do want to follow up on the price action from yesterday. We did hit our upside target back to the top side of the range at 89.50, but the medium time frame picture is actually changing a little bit here. So there will be a few new things in this video, which I'm really excited to talk about. And with all of that said, I think it's time for me to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest, and go check out the Krown trading application, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net and is free. So take advantage of it. I mean, it's one of those things like you have to understand how much this actually costs to even make, like in just manpower hours. At the end of the day, it's pretty fucking crazy, but we are very, very happy with the way that it's coming along. And the trade journal feature is now is live as of last week. We will be reskinning it and making it beautified in maybe like a few days, or actually maybe just one day, because tomorrow's Friday, so it's almost the end of the week anyways. As of right now, it's only linked up to Deribit. At some point in time, we'll include obviously more exchanges, but for right now, just running through Deribit. And I do have an affiliate link to Deribit in the description of this video, but don't feel obligated to use it. Just type in fucking Deribit at the top of your browser, right over there. Although I believe it does reduce some of your trading fees, so more money in your pocket, as we say. Anyways, what we're looking at right over here is we actually did see about 100 million being put on in open interest over the last 24 hours since we last spoke. What does that mean? It does mean that we are gearing up for a move probably today in the next 24-hour session, I do believe. Yesterday I believe I was on the record as saying that we were very, very likely to get a move in the next 2 days. Today being day number 2, I do think that today is kind of like the day of reckoning, especially with tomorrow, Friday being the weekly close for CMEs. Anyways, with all of that said, people putting on a little bit more positions within this region, which is of interest and is relevant to the analysis. So let's actually get into the charts right and over here, looking at Bitcoin with a big focus on Bitcoin. Once again, we are testing the weekly red 10 simple, but the big thing here is that Bitcoin did hit the top side of our range once again at 89.50, as we spoke about was likely yesterday. But yesterday I also said that I thought it was going to get rejection in this region once again. I think I'm going to be wrong on that. I do think I'm going to be wrong on that, and the reason why I say that is because Bitcoin reapproaching this region this fast is a little bit of a sign of strength, and more importantly, we do see that traditional markets actually had a pretty decent close yesterday. Yesterday, I had the wrong read on traditional markets. I looked at the day prior's close as very bearish. I'm going to be wrong on that very obviously now, and I do think that we're probably going to get another test up higher. Now, with regards to traditional markets, I do think that today is going to probably open a little bit lower, maybe come back down to like 308, 309-ish region, but I would be looking for that to likely bounce from that region and pop back up, and any sort of a move above even yesterday's high, or especially the day before that, which is about 313.81, and I would look for extension all the way up here towards like the 319, maybe even 320-ish level, and I would still kind of stick with my overall bottoming call on this. However, the thing is that we can put in a major low here, but still come back down and retest that low. And I actually do think that will happen over time. But for right now, and speaking just towards Thursday's price action, I do think it's going to get another test to the upside, and I would only get bearish on traditional markets, which of course is very correlated with Bitcoin, by the way, which seems to be like some sort of a major fucking just hubla in the crypto space right now, but we can actually prove this mathematically. Anyways, I would get bearish on traditional markets back again. Actually, bearish is not the right term, but I would be looking for another test of the downside of this range, and right now we're in a ranging market. If and only if we do see a daily little closure below about 305, or even, or perhaps even like a 4 hour, even a 4 hour below that same area would probably do it. And then I look for a test back down to like the low 290s-ish region. But again, just ranging here, I do think that today we probably test somewhere around, 315, 316, and probably get extension from there to about 320-ish region, maybe by end of week. The question is that where does that allow Bitcoin to go if traditional markets do make another leg to the upside? Well, if that does happen, I would be looking for Bitcoin to test about 9150 to 9200-ish region, blue box to blue box. And right now we are once again in the blue box, the more preliminary blue box, which doesn't really do too much for the medium time frames, but does do something for the short and the it does do something for the short-term timeframes, which can obviously have that downwards, domino effect running over here. So any sort of a 4 hour little closure above about 8950-ish region, of which right now at this point in time, with still like a little bit less than 3 hours to go, we are about $11.50 below. Then I would look for extension all the way into this region right over here. And of course, I could look at this on a wick-to-wick basis as well. Do we take out the wick of this current consolidation to the upside at 89.72.5? Could that do it? We technically already did it, so it's as always, closure is going to be better, but I do think that does bode well for Bitcoin. I do think that Bitcoin's probably going to get a test up into this region here, 9150. Yesterday I was saying that we probably get rejected in this region. I think I'm going to be wrong about that. I think Bitcoin's going to get a test higher here. All momentum oscillators, especially on the lower term timeframes, are headed back up, even on the higher term timeframes as well. Actually, we see 4 hour Stokes defending against the neutral control zone and back up. 3 hours definitely going to be there as well. What about the 2 hour, the bi-hourly up there as well, and hourly is going to be floundering around, but even up as well. So I do believe that that's going to be good enough for another push, and we see a lot of things coming in around that 9150-ish to 9200-ish region. That's where things actually can change for myself. I would start to get medium-term bullish back again if Bitcoin could break back above that region. And a lot of people have been asking why, and the answer why do I get bullish back above that region, even though it's a little bit more an aggressive play. I think more conservative traders will wait for 9550 to 9600 get taken out to the upside. The reason why I look at it is because that is a break in structure, and you do see Bitcoin breaking down in this whole region, Bitcoin breaking down through this consolidation running over here. To me, that would very, very likely extrapolate onto the higher time frame. So it's a little bit of a stretch for my own self, but I do feel confident enough to be aggressive in that region, and of course, no trade is 100% guaranteed to work out. But here's the thing, if Bitcoin does start to close, especially on new highs on the 12 hour, we will technically have an uptrend on like a medium time frame. Once again, we do see a low and a higher low being printed right on over here. There's your high, and if Bitcoin can just close above that region, well, we will have a higher high and we will have an uptrend on the 12 hour. And the 12 hour trend is usually more or less pretty damn dependable. Of course, the daily's a little bit better, just being double that time frame, but I do believe that the 12 hour typically does get follow through. So perhaps we might even see it during this video, as we do see Bitcoin quite literally testing 81.51.5 right now. Holy fucking moly, these girthy green dildos from the bulls coming in very hot right now. But as you can see, we are just still right below the yellow 21 exponential moving average. So before we get too excited, I do want to curtail back the excitement, because realistically for the last week or so, we've just been caught in a range here, and not we, but Bitcoin. It's like we identify with this fucking inanimate object, which is very, very strange when you see people just like get fall in love with something like this, or also hate something like this. Just, it's a fucking thing. It doesn't love you or hate you back. Well, although it can sometimes feel like that. anyways 12 hour Stokes are obviously very, very erect right over here, and will be working their way out of the bearish control zone with a close here or higher. Not only that, but 12 hour RSI going to be getting out of the bearish control zone here, and also breaking this long-term, not necessarily long-term trend line, but well, for the last like couple weeks going into the last month, going from beginning of February, essentially retested it a couple days ago. The retest was good, and I do think that most things are pointing north here, back up towards this region. I do believe also that the daily is showing similar signs of healthiness. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say healthiness just yet, but daily Stokes, crossing freshly back up, and more importantly, daily RSI breaking back above the exponential, and we got the same sort of falling channel going on here as well. In fact, it's a little bit more well defined than the 12 hour. which whichever one's working best is really the one to go with. But well, actually, you know what, maybe the 12 hour does work a little bit better on this one. I do see more relevant points being respected. In fact, yes indeed. Okay, we got that, and we got some like this going on right on over here, more or less caught in this channel, breaking to the upside. And yes, I do put more weight on patterns, especially that are done in RSI rather than price action. And this is likely to net us back up to the middle of the neutral zone, I'd imagine. So that will likely come with more upside. And again, next sort of destination that I see is about 9150 to 9200ish region. I imagine we likely do see some volume profile activity within this region as well. Let's pull it, when in doubt, pull it out, and we do see a little bit right around 9200ish region. So I do like that area nonetheless. And of course, this would be a good time to also throw on, or actually, yeah, well, let's see. Is there any other major moving averages coming in here? Well, we got the daily 21 expansion moving average coming in here. We actually did we have some bullish divergence come off the lows? No, we did not. Okay, so fair enough. But overall, as long as Bitcoin's above the 200 simple on the daily, I can't really be bearish. Or I can't. It's not that I can't be bearish. I can certainly be bearish. This is technically a downtrend on the daily, but I wouldn't be looking for the next trade to the downside just yet. Bitcoin could very easily have another few $100 move to the upside, which I think is actually kind of likely here. Get rejected there and then come back down and actually have the momentum to break those areas and find ourselves, perhaps in the low 8,000s, middle of 7,000s, so where I'd be looking towards next. Anyways, that's well and far away from right now. I want to take this one step at a time and just go level by level as that's the way that I trade. All these more sophisticated analyses tools are fun to do for the YouTubes and whatnot, but as far as actual trading goes, quite simple here. And going from blue box to blue box, I do want to start to match up things with the expected moves chart. We do see again, to kind of wrap it up, 89.50 to the upside, I would look for a move to about 91.50, 9200 region. So that's a $300 move, very, very tradable. By the same token, we actually can cut this to the middle now. So there is something new to go on here on the lower term time frames. 8,700 going to be a big pivot now as 8,700. If that does get broken to the downside, then the more immediate bullish case is going to obviously go by the wayside. And I would look for a quick move back down to about 8,500 base, another $200 move. Fair enough, but just going from blue box to blue box. If that does break to the downside, then that's when things get more exciting once again. For an actual breakout trade back down to about 81.50ish region. So let's go see what the probability of these moves are for today. And let me actually get rid of these major moving averages again with all those critical areas in place. Let's start off with a 12-hour showing. Very, very interesting stuff right here. As a first deviation, the bottom side is actually quite literally at 8,700. So it's even less than a 16% chance likely that we actually do even hit that level, trade below that level in the next 12 hours of period, which is going to get around the daily total close. So it's saying that the bias is still to the upside here. And what do you know? The top side of the first deviation is coming in right around about a little bit below 9200ish region. So I do look at that as overall good and likely to provide a pullback from 9150 to 9200ish region. And then if Bitcoin can close above there, which would actually be less than a 16% chance to happen in this next 12 hours worth of period, then and only then would I look for that extension to 95.50, 9600, which, by the way, where is that? That's actually right in the middle between the the second standard deviation and the third standard deviation. So, somewhere around like a 1.5% chance, I'd imagine, if I'm just doing some bad mental math right now. Perhaps the daily will get this a little bit better. Let's see how this one's doing. Or whoops, I could just change the time frame. Don't have to get rid of it. But same sort of thing here as well. In fact, it's actually showing that the probabilities of the upside are still increasing the longer that Bitcoin just goes sideways here above 87. So to kind of like break down what I'm saying, sideways above 87 is constructive, relatively good, and I would expect to move, at least a test towards like the 9200ish level. That's where the next sort of set of probabilities start to get defined once again. And I would look for an initial pullback there on the first pass. By the same token, if Bitcoin does break below even the first deviation to the downside on the daily is like well above our current low at about 8,500ish region. So, it'd say that if we are going to break down, it's going to take some time. But I don't really think that it's like an immediate concern as long as Bitcoin's above 8,700. So short-term bullish bias as long as we're above 8,700ish region. And I would look for, the move to actually, tangibly happen. Once we get like a 2-hour or a 4-hour to close above 89.50ish, let's call it. Wick above the prior high would be fine. Likely be fine. But at the end of the day, do want to be a little bit more surgical with it, and closes will certainly do that. So yeah, looking at the top side of the first deviation on the daily here, we actually do see it a little bit to the upside, so about 9,300-ish region. So remember that when we're talking about a 12-hour expected moves chart, we are talking about the next 12 hours worth of price action. When we're talking about a daily, we're talking about the next 24 hours worth of price action. So the 12-hour can trade up there, pull back, and then get further continuation above it. So which is what the daily shows, obviously. But my point is that have to take it one level at a time, and I still would wait. At least myself. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, as I like to say. But it's not until we close above 9,200 where I really start to look at the whole price structure as completely changing. I still do think that higher timeframes are relatively problematic here. Namely the weekly on not necessarily Bitcoin as much as a lot of the alts, but of course Bitcoin does drive most of these things. Bitcoin can very easily get a wick above the 10 simple, but if we fail to close above the 10 simple, and especially above the 21 exponential moving average by weekend's close at Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, this is going to start to look a lot like a sell here, at least to myself, getting ready for a move probably back down all the way to about 7,500-ish region overall, although I do think that there would be a very strong bounce somewhere right around 8150-ish region, give or take a few bucks there as well. But looking at the weekly right here, there are a lot of problematic things. We do see that weekly Stokes relatively tired. They haven't crossed down just yet, but weekly RSI has lost the exponential, and we're just kind of popping back up to test it right here. So I'm really not a fan of what I'm seeing overall from a higher time frame perspective. I do think that the lower time frames are likely to get another push here. The question is, can they close above any time frame that actually, can any time frame that actually matter close above an area that actually matters for the higher time frames? So that would be about 9,200 for myself. If we do close above 9,200, like I said, it's a little bit of an aggressive play for my own behalf, but I would be bullish for the next leg up to 9,600, and my whole bias would change from bearish to bullish, just like over here when Bitcoin broke below 9,600, that changed my bias from bullish to bearish. It'd be the same thing back above 9,200. Again, a little bit of an aggressive call right there. Technically speaking, more conservative traders will wait for about 9,550 to 9,600 to be closed above, preferably on a daily actually, because it will be such a big deal. And then we could talk about moves back into the 5 digits once again, 10,000 plus. But for right now, I think it's imperative to take it one thing at a time, mostly because the general market, while Bitcoin you can kind of make an excuse for it, the general market does not look like this. The general market looks something like Mrs. Litecoin right on over here, which closed the weekly or last weekly below all major moving averages. You can see very clear that we're just popping back up to retest these major moving averages, and all momentum oscillators are turning down at this point, while open interest is actually starting to tick up once again, and that to me is bearish. I mean, especially when you see price action going up while volume's going down, and open interest came down the whole way with it. When we got that first pop off the lows, but now that open interest kind of going up a little bit as well, and you don't really see anything like major being broken even from the shorter term time frames. Perspective. And there you go, Bitcoin. Nicely done, Mr. Bitcoin, to the upside. Oh, and there it is, 9,000 once again. Vegeta's girthy green doodles shattering all bears bungholes, except it doesn't really matter all that much. We are still at about 90-50-ish on that last little drive, but exciting nonetheless. Anyways, my point is that the alts tell me that this is more or less problematic from the higher time frame perspective as well. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin, not only that, but we do have weekly Stokes crossing down as well. That's not been good for her in the past, unfortunately. And same thing here on the weekly RSI, just retesting the exponential. I mean, to me, this looks like a long-term accumulation formation on the weekly RSI, which again I look at it as like a line chart. So I do like that. Looking at Stellar, I think kind of like the same thing. Yep, below all major moving averages, even in danger of getting a death cross relatively soon. And this one never even got a weekly higher high. Same thing with Ripple. And what do you know? Weekly Stokes, very, very, very tired in the same range that is kind of called these last turn downs, on the macro scale. And we do have major hidden bearish divergence present here as well between this point and this point. You could definitely argue that we played most of that move out, and I would agree. But I do think that it probably does push down below 5 cents. overall before it's all said and done. Anyways, it looks like my phone's going crazy right now. Okay, phone, calm down. Let's go check out Mr. Ripple's nipples. Mr. Ripple's nipples, same thing as well, below all major moving averages. Same hidden bearish divergence here, same downtrend the whole way through. To me, this thing can come up all the way to 25, a quarter and a half, and assuming that we don't close any weeklies above there, it's still long term not so good. I mean, shit, it's long term not so good as long as we're in a downtrend as well. Just in the most simple of simple ways. Looking at EOS, same thing here, same fucking thing here. Although it doesn't have the same sort of hidden bearish divergence, so that's good. That's good. But resistance right around 385-ish region, we'll call it 380-ish. What else do we want to look at? I mean, everything's pretty much more or less the same. Same thing on Tron Cash. Massive. Do we have hidden bearish divergence? We do not. But getting stonewalled, any sort of a weekly close below 1.8 cent, not good. If it closed above there, then yeah, probably does trade back up to like a little bit over 2 cents, and things look better overall. But on the whole, most things are not looking, long term all that healthy. Although short term does look like we get continuation, like another continuation drive to the upside. And there you go, Bitcoin, nicely done, baby, nicely fucking done. And I do think that this is going to get extension, probably another $100, $150 higher, and that's where the fun stuff can actually happen. So I'm going to put in some alerts here just in case we actually do tick them off during this video, because perhaps I might want to take a trade there, maybe a little bit of a scalpy scalp. Again, these are not long-term positions. I pretty much only play on the peripheries of this asset right now, because I've actually been spending a lot of my time creating this new program, this beginner's program, essentially, that is focused on basically taking like a complete newbie, like absolutely nothing, you don't even know how to navigate your way through an exchange, and bringing them to an intermediary level. So it's actually not even going to be relevant to most people, because most people who've watched this content for like at least a few weeks or especially like a couple months, you probably know most of it. There we go. I'm great marketing campaign, Krown. Just tell people not to buy your shit. Anyways, at the end of the day, my main source of income is coming from my own trading. Even though I'm more or less retired at this point, I still kind of pride myself on that fact. So I don't really feel the need to push things onto people that they don't actually need. It's more important to me to make sure that's a good fit. Also because doing refunds and shit is just fucking annoying. Anyways, looking at this is not what I want to look at on the 4 hour. What I wanted to look at on the 4 hours, 4 hour jewel right here. This is not this is kind of like a continuation hodl your long signal. This over here was the long signal. So I do want to follow up for the people in the jewel or who have access to the jewel, telling you to long somewhere right around about 8,600-ish region. Now it's actually telling you to hold on to those for a little bit longer, because we probably do get another push up here. So I do think that this has more on top of it. Keep in mind that 4 hour Stokes are freshly crossing here as well. So I do like all of that, in 4 hour RSIs bucking the trend, getting back above the same area that we've been, it's not necessarily officially above there just yet, but it looks like it's gonna have a pretty damn good chance to close back into the bullish control zone, which has been allergic to ever since middle of February, which is where price action started to top out right on over here. So the 4 hour has been getting things quite well. Here's the thing though, historical volatility percentile is still winding up. We have not seen the big shattering effect of it. You'd expect that when Bitcoin is kind of having a nice move to the upside right here, we'd want to see historical volatility percentile following with that, printing, getting some red action, and also seeing open interest go up as well. Let's see if open interest has gone up at all. No, it's actually gone down a smidgen here. It's been more or less flat, which to me, again, when we see historical volatility percentile essentially still contracting, price action going up, volume steadily going down here, and open interest more or less steady, tells me that do I think that we get rejected here? I think probably yes. Rejected around 9150, 9200-ish region. So, I'm interested in trades there. Yeah, probably. It's also a very easy trade to manage, because if we do close above 9200-ish region, extension to 9550, 9600 is very, 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 very likely. So at that point, have to get the fuck out. So well and clear defined areas of risk management and profit taking is exactly what makes a good trade. Not necessarily the fact that it's 100% guaranteed to work out, because I don't really know of anything that's 100% guaranteed to work out, especially on this date of the 5th day of March 2000 and the year 20. Haven't met a perfect trader as of yet. and that's across being like in multiple professional venues, on the floor of New York Stock Exchange, ARC, and then later above Chicago Board's Optic Exchange, surrounded by some of the best traders in the world, actually. So even they do take losses, believe it or not. I mean, it's no surprise to someone who actually fucking does this, but I do feel like a lot of people out there disingenuously make it sound like they never take losses. I mean, it happens, man. It fucking happens. So yeah, okay, cool. So we spoke about all of that. This might actually be a little bit of a faster video this day. Let's see. How did the 2-day close yesterday? Yeah, the 2-day closed innocuously, but we did take out the high of it. I do like that. Yeah, looks to me like we're probably going to test this region right around here. The question is, if this provides a rejection, understand the downstream of effects, because we're going to see a lot of bearish crosses along major moving averages that do matter quite a bit. 2-day will have the 10 simple cross to the downside of the 21 exponential moving average. I believe I used to have a YouTube video on the relevancy of that cross. And daily, if it gets rejected in that region as well, which would be right around the daily 21, we will get the bearish cross of the 21 and the 55, which, as I've been showing over the last few days, has some pretty nasty consequences for price action long term. Now, keep in mind, it is not confirmed right now. It's actually going to obviously be undone if Bitcoin even closes the daily above, like, let's say 9100. That would obviously be bullish here, and very likely open up the doors for continuation above that 9200ish level. Especially with all the momentum oscillators turning up, and perhaps even 3-day hidden bullish divergence being put in. And yes, it is actually, because we have confirmed this as a local low earlier today. So yeah, I do think that we're going to trade up a little bit here. It's gonna have a chance. It's only going to have a chance, especially with the strength in traditional markets, suggesting that we do have some more upside here as well. But let's say that we do get rejected at that 9150, 9200ish level. Well, that's when I do start to get quite concerned, because we will get the bearish cross of these two babies right here, and this one's almost never wrong. So, and it's also coming at like a perfect time as well, because we'd essentially be testing the cross right now. So we're gonna get clarity on the situation at the very least in like 48 hours, and probably sooner than that. If you see a daily close above the 21, that's going to be an obvious signal that we're very likely to trade back up to like 9550-ish region, 9600-ish region. If we do get rejected here, which is not going to be revealed today. If we got rejected here, it wouldn't be revealed until like tomorrow, I'd imagine, or maybe even the next day over the weekend. Then I'd look for a retest back down to 8700, probably a small bounce there, and then continuation to the low side of the range at 85. And that's where, the bearish bias essentially resumes. But for right now, we are going to see some hidden bullish divergences play out on some time frames that actually do matter, like a 3-day. So I do think that we have a little bit more upside to go here. Most likely, I do think that Bitcoin's going to test like the 9150-ish, 9200-ish region. So yeah, I do want to go back into the traditional markets really quick. As what are we looking at on a weekly? Yeah, so the weekly is still interesting to me. Very interesting. Let's put back on all the major movement averages actually before we get into this. Where's my 10? Yeah, there we go. If the weekly does close above the 21 tomorrow, Friday, 317.5, that's going to be the next obvious signal that this is the low. But I'm not convinced that we've seen the lows just yet. I think that we probably actually close Friday on an up note, perhaps. But then coming into next week, that's going to be the next real test. So that relatively bodes well for Bitcoin here. And like I said, traditional markets, having a pretty damn good close yesterday and maintaining the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average by that metric, we're gonna see very likely Bitcoin fall through with it. I know that people don't want to hear this, but the correlations are there between traditional markets and Bitcoin over the long term. Now, I've been tagged in like a shit ton of things on Twitter. I do not care to respond to those. The reason why I don't care to respond to them is because when people let me explain the situation. A lot of people will tag me in these Twitter posts saying that there's no way that the traditional markets are correlated with Bitcoin. How could that happen? My orange coins are different. And Satoshi Nakamoto made this in response to 2008. So that they're not correlated. It's like, okay. I can't speak with someone like that because it's myself, and that would make me schizophrenic. But also I can't speak with other people like that who express similar things on crypto Twitter, because it's just not based in reality. And realistically here, the math is the fucking math. And I've even seen some people that I respect heavily, like Ivan on Tech, get caught up in this discussion, and it's just wrong. It's just completely wrong. And then other people get caught up and literally they won't look at something like this and they'll say, well, we do see correlations on the lower time frames between cryptocurrency and traditional market, but not on the macro, never. It's like, oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking God. That's actually literally backwards. Although right now on the lower time frames, they probably are correlated. In fact, we can go look at that right here on like a daily. Look at this on a daily. This is quite interesting, isn't it? On a daily, we see the correlation coefficient is actually a 0.89, but the R squared is literally a 0.15. It's not that good of a fit. It's really not that good of a fit, and that's just a daily. Let's go to like a 4 hour. 4 hours actually much better. So fair enough. On the lower term time frames, it actually is quite correlated. But when we're talking about the macro, we need to talk about a monthly. Now, I saw Ivan on Tech do something very disingenuous, and again, I'm a big Ivan on Tech fan. I really like him as a person, but I would like to explain it to the people who happen to give a fuck over here. He posted a chart of Bitcoin on log scale, and then traditional markets on linear scale, and said, show me where show me where traditional markets does something like this. And it's like implying that Bitcoin does these 1,000% plus moves sometimes. That's not what a correlation is about. A correlation is a correlation, which a correlation is like relativity, and the R squared is what you're looking for that on that. It's telling you how much of that data actually fits over the long term. And that's why when you look at these two things, when both of them are rallying, both of them are fucking rallying. When traditional markets are correcting, Bitcoin's going down 70%. And this is what people do not understand, or I'm sure people understand this, but this is what the people who do not agree likely don't understand. They're looking at things in like a one-to-one perspective. They're saying, okay, well, Bitcoin goes up 20%, then traditional markets need to also go 20%. It's like, no. Fucking no. Do you like what the fuck, man? Where do people get these ideas? They've been living in their own echo chambers for too long. It's by no mistake, and let's actually get a different chart over here. I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into this today because I do believe that it's just easier to watch traditional markets right now, just in the same way that usually it's easier to watch Bitcoin in comparison to whatever asset you're going to be looking at. Whatever crypto asset you're going to be looking at. So we'll bring up SPY, we'll bring up Bitcoin here in the line chart. This is going to be on a daily. We'll actually go to a weekly. And what I want to show, and let's both put them on, well, we can probably even leave it like this. But what I want to show is that when traditional markets are correcting, and these are corrections here, these are like 10 to 15% corrections, like all these major downs. That's a big deal in traditional markets. That's actually a big deal in traditional markets. Bitcoin's always, during those periods, going down, and it's like 70% plus corrections. You mean crash. So we see it going all the way back to 2011, right? And this was right in over here. Very, 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 very easy to see. Bitcoin goes parabolic for the next couple of years and tops out in 2014, 2015. Bitcoin always tops out first. It topped out first right here by like a few months from in May going all the way to July. And then traditional markets always make new all-time highs first, and then Bitcoin follows like a half year to a year plus later. You see traditional markets in the orange line chart making new all-time highs right in over here. Bitcoin falls like a year later, and then it continues up, and they both go straight up for the next few years. And then Bitcoin tops out first. This time a little bit, actually quite a bit sooner than traditional markets, but still they're both correcting during about the same time. You do see that traditional markets come down here. I actually remember both this and this, and this was like a big deal. This was like a big fucking deal. Like, people are legitimately scared in this region. And what do you know? Bitcoin's correcting, and it's like, correcting. It's having one of its 70% down moves as well. Then we see the same thing right over here, beginning of 2018, right? Bitcoin goes from 20,000 to 6,000 over the span of like a month. And then traditional markets go all the way from here. I mean, this doesn't look like much, but this was a big deal as well. That's in Bitcoin terms. It's not a 60% move in traditional markets, obviously. It's like a 10% move, but it was a big deal, and they were both moving at the same fucking time. Then traditional markets make basically continue on. This is all just one consolidation really over the macro, but same thing. When Bitcoin breaks 6,000, what do you know? Traditional markets major move down. Remember that end of 2018? Yes, of course you do. And they both bottom out around the same time almost always, or within like a few, within a reasonable distance. And then more recently we see traditional markets have like a 15% down. Bitcoin has a 20% down. when one is correcting, or usually when traditional markets are correcting, so is Bitcoin. That's what I mean on the higher term time frame. So this is, again, only for the people who happen to give a fuck. I know that there's a lot of people out there who, who are reasonable and they already know this. For the people, who don't make any fucking effort and just say blindly silly things over the internet. I hope that my editor can clip this video right here and just be able to show that, because that is the most easy way to look at it. All of that, not, just lining up the macro events along with the mathematicals of it. And that is, that's really what I wanted to focus on right here. So I do think that traditional markets probably do reach a little bit higher today. And next week we're going to find out if the bounce is real or not. But right now, traditional markets are just likely to move higher because they've been so overdone to the downside. It's not asking for too much to get another test back up to like 317, 320-ish region even. It's not, not a big deal. Anyways, Bitcoin at 90.85. Nicely done, Bitcoin laws, powerful laws. But here's a big thing. If traditional markets were to, for whatever reason, close above the 10 simple tomorrow, I don't think that they do tomorrow, but if they were, that would be the obvious signal that the low is in. This was all just one major fake out. And I'd be looking for Bitcoin to essentially have its lows in at that mid 8,000s level as well. Sorry, I don't mean to be yawning on you. It's I guess I didn't get as much sleep as I thought I did last night. But what I think is more likely to happen is that we trade up to like 317-ish region, maybe even a little bit higher than that, to 320, and probably close below 317 tomorrow. And then next week we decide if this is going to be all sold into, and we head all the way down to like 270, 260 or overall, which would probably bring Bitcoin back to 7,500, or if this is quite literally the low. I think that you can make a good argument for this being the low as it is, just by looking at the volume and just by looking at the volatility. Both of which are at extremes here, which typically happens on major pivots. You see this last one right around here. You see this last one prior to that right around here. You see the last one prior to that in 2016, 2015 low right here, 2014 low right here. I mean, this is always done on major lows. So I do think that it is likely that the low is in, but this would not discount the fact that we can come back down, grind out this low again, maybe like a little bit lower, put in some bullish divergence, and then, and then accelerate to the upside once again. I don't think that the traditional markets are going into a long-term recession. I don't think that we're having a financial meltdown. And I think that if you are looking for a financial meltdown, it should be pretty damn clear. It should be pretty fucking obvious at this point that, it ain't going to benefit your magical orange coins. Very unlikely. At least that has not been the trend for the past 10 years. And even Mr. Andreas Antonopoulos himself will tell you that Bitcoin will not be able to handle a financial crisis for at least like another maybe 10 years. And I think that he's probably right on that. At least I would trust his opinion, as he's pretty on the money with a lot of things that he says. And I think that he's an expert in like understanding that sort of aspect of this asset. So that's something that I don't really focus all that much on. I'll let him, explain that, because he's going to be way better at it. And I'll just focus on the technicals here. That's essentially what I'd be saying. And also, while we are here on traditional markets, daily Stokes popping back up, daily RSI. I mean, we are in, critical levels here. So, yeah, I'll put it that way. Anyways, what else do we want to look at? Let's go look at, or how long is this? Oh my God, I thought that this video was going to be shorter. It's not. Anyways, I'll start to wrap this one up sooner rather than later. Let's go check out gold. Gold, I'd be stumped on right here. The weekly is very good. If the weekly can close here, I'd be bullish. If the weekly closes lower than 1620, I will not be bullish. So I'd wait for tomorrow's close. In fact, let's go to CMEs and see what they're doing today as well. CMEs, do we have anything obvious here? We got the 200 simple looming right overhead at where? 92 fucking 100. Nicely done. So yeah, that's going to be the next big hinging price action, I do believe, for Bitcoin and its subsidiaries. And what's up, Phonics? Phonics, good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave. I do apologize for my autistic outrages, but unlikely to stop them as well, because, it's something that you can't just really control. Okay, anyways, I think we've talked about pretty much all the alts to begin with, so this maybe is a good time to leave this one off anyways. And I would say that Bitcoin, likely to get that continuation drive to 9150, 9200-ish level. Kind of cool that we got to see this one on video happen. The question is, can we close above here on a time frame that matters? What's a time frame that matters? 4 hours is going to be the minimum for something like that, although I'd feel much more comfortable with a 12-hour or a daily above 9,200 and then extend targets all the way to like 9,550, 9,600-ish region. And I'd really, and in my long-term bias would likely be back to the upside again, but I would caution against getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here because I do want to see where traditional markets open today. Now, there is, because we are kind of in like a weird situation right now, like worldwide, if traditional markets were to open lower, then this is like the one obvious bearish scenario for traditional markets that could happen today. If we open or even just trade below about like, let's call it 304.5 or especially like 303, 303 and a quarter, that would be very obviously bearish to me, and I would be looking for price action back down to about 295, probably a bounce there, and that's probably gonna allow Bitcoin to have a fake out at about 9,200 and trade back down to 9,700-ish region. So keep your eyes out on that. I don't think that happens, but I will put an alert in just in case. In fact, I'll put it in right here. And if that alert does get ticked off, I'd be looking at that as a very clear and obvious sign that we're going to be headed back down into the lower end of this range. But for right now, ranges are pretty damn well defined, which I really, really like as a trader. And I think with all that said, it's time for me to wish you well once again. And until next time.